The guy she'll hit you.
The meeting for the Spencer Board of Aldermen, October the 11th, 2022, will come to order. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll have the invocation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Mr. Miller, I think you're doing the invocation.
Oh, I thought it was you. I didn't. Okay, if you'll bow your head, please. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for being with us today, looking after us. Such a beautiful day. As we know, winter is approaching. The turning of the leaves is becoming beautiful at this time of year. A special prayer for our neighbors down south in Florida and along the coast of Georgia and South Carolina and North Carolina for their recovery over the hurricane. Blessed be with all our guests tonight. Blessed be with our employees that we have. Give us the strength and guidance to do this meeting tonight, and a special prayer for Patty for leading us tonight. We ask it in her name. Amen.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for the special prayer.
You need it. You need it.
We're going to start with the additions, deletions, and adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to be made to the agenda? Is there a consensus of the board to adopt the agenda?
I move that we adopt this.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan has moved and Mr. Miller has seconded, so it is adopted. Okay, we will now move into the recognitions. We have several tonight that we are proud to do. I'm going to read, first of all, the one for the Spencer Women's Club proclamation. And I'll be reading it on behalf of the Office of the Mayor. Whereas the Spencer Women's Club was organized and established September 2nd, 1942, was federated with the North Carolina Federation of Women's Clubs, and in 1949 was incorporated under the laws of the state of North Carolina, and whereas the object of the club is the social, civic, and domestic betterment of our town, and their motto, let all the ends thou admittedst art, be thy countries, thy gods, and truths. And whereas the Spencer Women's Club was founded during war times, and the efforts of the women centered around answering the call of duty on the home front. And whereas during its first year in existence, the club worked with groups such as the Girl Scouts, invited various speakers to come and educate them on subjects ranging from home management to government policies, and sent delegates to district meetings. In the 1950s, their efforts broadened the Cancer Crusade and activities for Spencer's youth. And whereas in the 1960s, the Spencer Women's Club promoted compulsory driver's training in the high schools, the Get Out the Vote campaign, sent delegates to Girl State, and organized the Spencer Junior Women's Club. And whereas during the 1970s, the club helped the establishment of the Spencer Shops Transportation Museum through their community improvement program. And whereas the town of Spencer is proud to honor the Spencer Women's Club for its charity and commitment to the betterment of the town of Spencer, now therefore be it resolved, I, Jonathan D. Williams, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the town of Spencer, North Carolina, and on behalf of the entire Board of Aldermen and all our citizens, do hereby congratulate the Spencer Women's Club on its 80-year anniversary and give recognition to its members for their valuable contributions to the quality of life in our community. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to representatives of the Spencer Women's Club with sincere best wishes for continued success and many happy years ahead. In witness thereof, I have ordered the town seal affixed by my signature on this 6th day of October in the year of our Lord of 2022. And I see that we have representatives of the Spencer Women's Club, and if you would step forward, they get this.
Come on. They don't look at you good.
Okay, our next proclamation is for the North Carolina Museum of Dolls, Toys, and Miniature Proclamation. Whereas the North Carolina Museum of Dolls, Toys, and Miniatures was founded in 2012 by the Morris and Nance families to honor their daughter, sister, Amy Dawn Morris. And whereas the North Carolina Museum of Dolls, Toys, and Miniatures originally featured Amy's cherished collection of dolls and miniatures, and has grown to include thousands of items in its collection. And whereas the North Carolina Museum of Dolls, Toys, and Miniatures is dedicated to the preservation, conservation, study, and appreciation of dolls, toys, and miniatures. And whereas the North Carolina Museum of Dolls, Toys, and Miniatures is a remarkable must-see destination for families with children, collectors, scholars, and anyone interested in history, evolution, and future of childhood playthings, the stories they tell, and their role over time as cultural artifacts. And whereas the North Carolina Museum of Dolls, Toys, and Miniatures has been recognized as one of 35 of North Carolina's most unforgettable museums, and is only one of a handful of nonprofit museums of its type in the nation. And whereas the town of Spencer is proud to honor the North Carolina Museum of Dolls, Toys, and Miniatures, and its valuable cultural contributions in our community. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Jonathan D. Williams, by virtue of the authority invested in me as mayor of the town of Spencer, North Carolina, and on behalf of the entire Board of Aldermen and all our citizens, do hereby congratulate the North Carolina Museum of Dolls, Toys, and Miniatures on its 10-year anniversary. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to representatives of the North Carolina Museum of Dolls, Toys, and Miniature Museum, with sincere best wishes for the continued success and many happy years ahead. In witness thereof, I have ordered the town seal affixed by my signature on this 6th day of October in the year of our Lord, 2022. And I see we have representatives. And if you haven't been, our last presentation is going to be, not our last one, but our third one, is going to be read by Alderman Muhammad in honor of James and John Woodson.
Okay, first of all, I wanted to state that John and James Woodson, they were some very influential young men within Rowan County, within North Carolina, South Carolina, even California. At such a young age, these young men were taken away from us. And attending the candlelight visual that they had at North Rowan High School for these two young men, I learned that they motivated people to further themselves in their careers, which was amazing. A grown woman listened to these young men and started a trucking company. They touched a lot of lives. And on behalf of the mayor of the town of Spencer, Jonathan Williams, I will read this proclamation. Whereas John and James Woodson were born in Rowan County on April 5, 1995, attended the Salisbury-Rowan County Schools, and graduated from North Rowan High School in Spencer, North Carolina, and James attended Piedmont Community College. Whereas the Woodson brothers were widely known throughout Rowan County for their talent as actors, singers, dancers, and skaters. Whereas John and James Woodson performed as stage actors for Piedmont Players and performed at the Norval, Maroney, and Piedmont Theaters in Salisbury. Whereas the Woodson brothers performed in several live musicals and shows around the Salisbury and Charlotte area, such as Grease, Leap of Faith, Dreamgirls, A Color Purple, Chicago, and many, many more shows. Whereas John and James Woodson tragically passed away unexpectedly on Sunday, September 18th, 2022, at the age of 27, leaving behind a legacy that all should aspire to achieve. Whereas John and James Woodson are terribly missed by the community. Whereas the town of Spencer would like to celebrate the memory and accomplishments of John and James Woodson. Now, therefore, I, Jonathan D. Williams, Mayor of the town of Spencer, do here recognize the prestigious lives and careers of John and James Woodson, as well as their many contributions to the town of Spencer and its citizens. Hereunto, I have ordered the town seal affixed by my signature on this 11th day of October in the year of our Lord 2022. I don't know if there's any member of the family present, but if not, we'll make sure that the family does receive this copy of the proclamation from this town. There.
Thank you. Very
Yes.
well deserved. They were outstanding young men. And finally, we want to recognize our town staff for their work on the Race to the River 5K and the Fun Run. Okay, Peter.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just a few comments about the involvement of our staff. Our first ever Race to the River 5K was part of a series of finale events we had here on the 24th of September. And it was the finale of our Rowan Creek Week series for this year. And so that day we had over 50 registered runners and about 15 bike riders, and then about 20 paddlers take part in the different events that happened. We also had an open house here at Town Hall leading up to that had a variety of activities. It was an exciting day, and certainly appreciate the work of our staff that helped make that happen. We had staff from every department involved, of course, whether it be closing off the road, providing a safe route for those taking part in the run, getting things set up here. We also had partners involved, and I do want to mention the staff at the North Carolina Transportation Museum, as well as the Rowan Tourism Authority, helped us with the trolley that was used as part of that event. And so certainly a team effort. And again, all departments who are involved, particularly want to thank our public works, police and fire staffs for the on-the-ground assistance that was provided leading up to that day. Joel, what was it, 200 and how many cones were put out? 285, and he counted every one of them twice. So certainly appreciate our team's work to help put that on, and for everybody who took part in the event.
Thank you, Peter. And I also wanted to recognize Sam for hosting and getting together the movies that we had this fall. And I think our last one was on Saturday, ET, correct? And I've heard a lot of good comments about that, and I know the community enjoyed participating in that. Okay, are there any other recognitions? Okay. We will now move on to public comment. This agenda item is included to allow input to the Board of Aldermen from any citizen who wishes to address the board without requesting to be on the agenda. Those who wish to address the Board of Aldermen are required to provide their name, address, and topic to be addressed. The board will only listen and not respond but may decide to place a topic on a future agenda. A speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. We will now open the floor to receive public comment. I know that we have some people who have signed up to speak. Thank you. So we will call Melissa Stepp of Quail Drive, and she wants to speak to us about the parade.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Melissa Stepp, and I'm here to respond to the comments made at the last meeting regarding the Christmas parade and Spencer's involvement. My grandfather was with the parade from its very beginning, and he was the executive of the Rowan Salisbury Merchants Association and therefore the Holiday Caravan. As many of you know, he died at the young age of 59, but not before retiring from his lifelong position there. Since then, and even before, my parents have been involved, including taking me to the parade board meetings at a very young age and then to stake out early parade morning. As I got older, I helped my dad and was on the parade board myself until after having my son. We were even in the newspaper with my son Ryan being the first ever fourth-generation parade workers. Since having children, I have continued to help yearly with stakeout and have been given a road to maintain during the parade. The women last month said Spencer only had 4 volunteers last year, which is not true at all, as my family alone had 4 people and always has. There are many other people who continue to help every year as well. Tammy Pinkston, not these other women, have been there since my grandpa was alive and have kept things rolling simply because she wants to do right by him. While she has the support of many long-term volunteers, this, at most times, is very difficult for her to continue. For others to step in and belittle the work she has done is disheartening. In the past, money was not given by the town itself. Money is raised through sponsorship. Spencer is much smaller than Salisbury and has less businesses who are able to provide sponsorship. Therefore, they cannot be expected to raise as much money as Salisbury can. It is the job of the parade board members to go out and find these sponsors, not the town's job to provide all of the money. The parade is not simply about money, which is what the women are asking for. It is about seeing the children lined up early on the streets and wait for the bands, music, and Santa. For some of us, it isn't about the social status. It is about the legacy.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Sharon Hovis of Rowan Avenue in Spencer. Good board. Good evening, Ms. Hovis.
Long time. Anyways, I'm just here reference to talking about, I'll start it with the infrastructure. Everybody knows that the main problem with towns everywhere is infrastructure. It's been one of our main problems with Spencer. It started with 4th Street, now we're doing the 17th Street. We go back into our property with the easement that I had spoke to you guys. I'm already speaking constantly with the town attorney and the mayor reference to a resolution. But for me, throwing money at the resolution isn't going to be enough. There were some things we've already been talking about bringing in and the town services as far as staff to maintain it, but I'm still worried about the liability of it as far as recent as what happened with even Mayor Pro Tem's grandson going down into that gorge that's in our backyard. We had to literally get a ladder to go down in there to get a child out of it. That's how bad and big this thing is growing. There's a street that's across the street from that is connected to at Forestdale Pool that caved in because this is what Mother Nature does. It disintegrates things. That easement started small and ended up big. Even Mayor Pro Tem can agree that she played in it, and it wasn't nothing of what it is now to the magnitude that it is. I'm still back at the board to see if there was something that they can do, whether they put a grid over the top if you're going to put the easement there, or something for the fact of the children. But most of all, for the infrastructure, you still need to keep looking back at that, because even with the 17th Street project, you still got a big old gorge that they've dug down in there now, and if they don't do something about it, like putting some kind of better work as far as underground pipe, you're still going to have the issue that we have. This is not going to go away, nor will I reference to the infrastructure of Spencer. If it takes me running back for the board again to make sure we stay on this issue, I will. So I'm asking the board again to revisit the infrastructure. To also, let's not steal the negotiations with our easement is still not done. Still not happy with just throwing money at it. If that be the case, put the money towards fixing it, not putting it in our pocket. But anyways, all right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Right.
Peter, did we have any letters or any emails in reference to public comment?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we will now close the floor for public comment. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay.
I'd like to speak.
Okay, can you sign it now?
Yeah, I
Okay.
didn't want to be
I'm
rude.
sorry, I didn't see your.
I didn't want to be rude and.
No, here, you go. We won't. It's opened back up.
Sorry.
That's okay. You might. Here you go. Thank you, sir. Public comment is reopened.
Let me know when I can start,
I can
please.
see it.
It's up there. Okay.
It's time.
Howard Dovey Jr., 117 North Yadkin Avenue, lived there for 47 years. For the last 4 months, my neighbor across the street has pointed bright lights to my house. I have pictures on my laptop. I have expressed my concerns with the police department. What will the town of Spencer do to eliminate this problem? Reference, pictures, laptop, September the 28th, 2022, 8:25 p.m., laptop. September the 16th, 2022, 7:49 p.m. Reference, James Osborne. Talked to James Osborne in September several times. September the 23rd, 2022, Officer Niblock was called to my house. No response. That's all that I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dovey.
And I would like for something to be done about it. I would like to say he's a spiteful neighbor. He burnt copper wire, electrical wire with insulation on it. I have Asha's phone number. I got involved with the police, fire department. If he ever burns anything in this 55-gallon drum, it will cost him $10,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment? Yes, ma'am. Okay.
My name is Carmen White, 205 8th Street. Good evening, board and Spencer citizens. I'm coming to you today because I've been in my house for 19 years. And there is a place on the sidewalk in front of my house where the sidewalk has lifted so much until you can actually see up under it. I have called, I have written, I have begged, and I keep getting promises that it's going to be taken care of. In this 19 years, it has not. I got a promise that it would be taken care of this last August. Again, it has not, and I waited and hoped that it would be taken care of. I don't know what the problem was. I thought that maybe it was because I had a tree out front and the roots of the tree had lifted it, but the tree has since died and I had it cut back. I wanted to have a chainsaw sculpture put out there out of the tree trunk. The artist will not touch it until that sidewalk is taken care of because he says it might shift it. And so I don't know what it is I need to do to get this taken care of, but I'm hoping that the board members can maybe speak to the powers that be to help me with this situation.
Thank you very much.
What was your address again?
Carmen,
Address.
your address,
The property address.
205 8th Street.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? The public comment session is closed. We were now moving into the consent agenda. The consent agenda is the first order of business. Items listed are believed to be non-controversial and are administrative in nature. There will be no separate discussion of the items unless an alderman requests or a citizen requests and is granted permission to speak. The items then will be removed from the consent agenda and considered individually. Otherwise, all items will be enacted by one action. Is there any item on the agenda that any board member would wish to remove for individual consideration? Since there is not,
Madam Chair, I
Yes.
move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Sledge.
Second.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded, and I will read a list of the items on the consent agenda that were approved below. A, approval of minutes from September the 8th, 2022, and September the 13th, 2022. Excuse me, Peter, were we supposed to vote after they made that motion and seconded? Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot. All in favor of adopting the consent agenda? My fault. Okay, now we'll backtrack. Consider authorizing 3 days of paid administrative leave as prizes for staff participating in the Rowan County United Way campaign. Consider awarding a historic preservation incentive grant in the amount of $323.03 to Patrick Bonhomme for an exterior rehabilitation project. Consider adopting Budget Amendment Ordinance 22-0022. Consider adopting Budget Amendment 22-023. And consider authorizing staff to apply for a 2022 North Carolina League of Municipalities Safety Grant.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I believe you misspoke on that. E, the amendment is 22-021.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, any other comments? Okay, we will now move into approving to consider approving the 2022 health coverage renewal proposal from Snow Benefits Group. And I'll have the manager introduce Mr. Snow, and we thank them very much for coming, and then we'll proceed with their presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Board. We talked about this briefly at your pre-agenda meeting, and tonight we have Lee Snow with us with Snow Benefits Group. He's going to give you a presentation on our renewal proposal for the coming year, and staff does recommend approving the recommended renewal rates for the planned year that begins December 1, 2022.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board.
I want to go over this just real briefly. I think Peter's given you guys the main gist of it, but I wanted to show the work that we've done to make sure we're recommending the right thing. But if you look on the first page, this is your actual renewal. You're still on a grandfathered plan through Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and it actually went down 18.6% this year. That was mainly due to you've got some younger employees now on the group. Some of the older employees have retired and aren't on the plan anymore. So obviously that's helping things as far as cost. So that's a $41,700 savings just by the renewal going down 18.6%. We'll come back to that in another way in a second, but if you look at the next page, these, like I said, you're on a grandfathered plan. The plans that are listed here, Blue Cross and Blue Shield, ACA compliant plan. So these are the new plans that Blue Cross and Blue Shield is offering groups your size. If you'll look at the very first plan, it's $1,000 deductible. Very rich plan. The plan you're actually giving your employees after you guys cost share with the employees would most closely resemble that, and you can see the cost of that. And we'll come back to that in a second on another page. If you'll turn over to the next page, this is United Healthcare, and it's a whole list of 8 different plans with United Healthcare. The same thing. There's really only two carriers plus the League of Municipalities that we went to, because those are the only people that unfortunately right now will give us quotes on a group your size. Cigna and Aetna come back into play if you get over 50 employees, but under 50 employees, they won't even give us a quote. So it's Blue, United. We did go to the League, which is on the next page. So if you flip over, we went to the League of Municipalities, asked them to give us some quotes. If you look at the one on the far right, and I'm going to refer back to this on the next page, or 2 pages from now, this the closest thing the League could come to the plan you have. It does look cheaper, but if you'll look, currently you have a $10,000 deductible plan whether an employee has individual coverage or they have family coverage. The way the League's plan is, you have $10,000 for an individual, $20,000 if they have family. You have 27 people on the plan and 14 of them have family. So that would be 14 families that, even if you cost shared the family part like you've been doing it for the last 20 some years, that would be basically doubling the exposure to the people who have family, which is actually more than half of your employees do have dependent or some sort of family coverage. So in our opinion, to keep the plan you have with Blue Cross and Blue Shield is better for your employees, and I would argue is better for the town as well, because you guys cost share that. So it could actually cost you more than the savings reimbursing part of that for family members. If that makes sense. Then I want to flip over to the next page, and this shows, we do have what we call as a hybrid plan. I gave you a book that shows the summary of benefits. It is a high deductible plan that the town of Spencer actually reimburses employees the lion's share, that $10,000 deductible. So if you look in the middle section of this yellow and red page, this just shows your annual premium. Then it shows the administrative fees. We get a company called Innovative Employee Benefits to do that work for you as far as reimbursing employees, so you guys aren't involved in that. We pay them to do that. And then bucket 1 is, anyway, these are just showing you what the reimbursements were for this year, and that was $40,000 to take your total cost to $264,559, all in, even reimbursing everybody for the $10,000 deductible plan. If you look over to the right, we've had obviously a large decrease. We're just assuming, we're saying that if you had the same, nobody knows, we don't have a crystal ball what those reimbursements might be for next year, but we're just saying let's assume it's the same.
and then it shows you at 222, 351. Obviously, we don't know exactly what that's going to be, but it's probably not going to be far off where it was this year. I think you've had a good year. If you look all the way over to the far left, what I'm doing here is bringing back into play that $1,000 deductible Blue Cross and Blue Shield plan that I showed you. There was an ACA plan on the Blue Cross quotes that are not grandfathered. So that would be the cost for the town to provide a plan that I feel is the same as the plan you're actually giving them. So you guys doing the hybrid plan, having the buckets, doing the reimbursing is showing you that it's saving the town $161,000 by doing that. So you're giving your employees a much better plan. And by the way, the $1,000 deductible plan I'm talking about is ×2 if you have family. The plan you have now is one deductible whether you're an individual employee or you have a family. It's the only plan, I've been doing this 36 years, it's the only plan I've ever seen like that. There will never be another one. You've got this as long as the federal government says that you can continue keeping grandfathered plans. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina has assured us that as long as the federal government allows it, they're going to keep them on the books. Every year we have our fingers crossed and we wait for the word that that's actually the way it's going to be. And so far, since 2008, every year they've granted that. I don't really anticipate that changing anytime soon. So we've got it for another year. We think it's the right thing to do. If you turn over to the next page, and you'll have to turn it, this is a cost summary. So what we did is we just came up with, if you look to the left, that's the league. Again, remember the league is ×2 on the deductibles for family members. That's what we were saying, that we don't think that's the right thing to do this year. So you can see the cost there, and then under that you can see the dental plan is under there. The dental plan with Blue Cross and Blue Shield is slightly higher than the league plan by about $600. But then if you look, and I'm sorry, that's with Humana. And then if you look at the Humana Vision, it's actually cheaper by $1,300. And part of what we're doing is we're getting package pricing. So because you're doing both with Humana, they're giving us a discount on that. So our suggestion would be keep that with Humana. It's actually a better plan. If you look at the allowance for Vision, it's $130, where the league's plan is $120. And then the life insurance, that's with US Able, and it stayed the same, or it's with Humana again, and then it's staying the same as what the league is. So our recommendation would be to keep your Blue Cross and Blue Shield plan, the grandfathered plan. I think it's going to be better for your employees, and I think it's going to be better for the town as well, because you would not have to reimburse that second $10,000 deductible potentially with family members. So I think that is for both parties. Any questions? I'll be glad to answer.
Any board members have a question?
Do Medicare supplements.
We do. Call us.
Mayor Pro Tem, if it's okay, I'd like to add one note about the buckets and how this works for our staff. I'll say this is one of our strongest points that we are able to use when we're trying to recruit and retain our talented professional staff. And just for food for thought, we have very affordable premiums. And just for example, the way we cost share currently, employee medical coverage is 100% covered by the town. For bringing on dependents beyond that, the town takes that premium. That would be, say, for full family coverage, for example, but it works the same for all levels of dependent coverage. The town covers the amount that it would for employee only, and then the remaining portion of the premium is split 50-50. So the town is cost sharing the premium, that amount, with the staff. That makes it quite affordable. And with this 18% decrease that we're projecting, for example, this year, somebody who has full family coverage in the current year, full family coverage for every biweekly paycheck, somebody is getting about a $233 deduction out of their paycheck every 2 weeks to cover that. That's going to go down to $199. So every 2 weeks, that savings is going to come into premium. And then when we talk about the deductible, I think that's actually really where the magic is with all this, because the max out-of-pocket exposure, because of the plan that Lee described with innovative employee benefits, that $10,000 deductible is shared so that the town covers the first 1,000, the next 1,000 the staff person, the insured covers, and then the remaining 8,000 is split 60-40. So the max out of pocket for an individual or for a family is $2,600 out of that 10,000, and that's I think a great asset and a great benefit we're able to provide our staff.
Just to give you an idea, the ACA marketplace, the max out of pocket for those plans in 2023 is $9,100. So you're at $2,600. So very rich plan. You do a great job for your employees, and I think this plan has helped the town save a lot of money. You've been on this plan now for probably 20 years or more, and it's worked well. We'll keep our fingers crossed every year. We'll continue to keep it. As far as whether or not the government and Blue Cross will allow us to keep it, but I think we're okay for a little while.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you again
Thank you very much.
for providing this service.
Thanks for your business. Work hard for you. Take care.
Okay, I'm now going to call for a motion to accept the plan.
And one correction I want to make to the packet, the way it's written, it says for the plan year beginning December 1, 2023. That should actually say December 1, 2022. So
Okay.
with that correction offered.
Okay, thank
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion that we do accept this policy from Snow Enterprise for our employees.
you. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Sledge and Steve Miller made our motion. All approved? All opposed? Okay, looks like it carried unanimously. Thank you.
And on behalf of the staff, I certainly also want to say thank you.
Yeah, I'm proud of this benefit package we offer. I think it's as good as any you can find anywhere, and I've heard a lot of staff members praise. So glad we have. Okay, we'll now move to item number 8. Consider authorizing the town manager to execute a special event agreement with the Spencer Partnership. And Peter is going to update us with this and give us a summary of what's going on.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the board. So this is a request to authorize the town manager to execute a special event agreement. After the initial year of Winterfest in 2021, the 2022 Winterfest is just around the corner, and we recommend entering into a special event agreement to outline the responsibilities of the town and the Spencer Partnership nonprofit that puts on the event. Basically, the event is produced by the Spencer Partnership with key contributions from the town. The town's contributions, as recommended in this agreement, would be use of the property, in-kind services and support, as well as financial sponsorship. Of course, your sponsorship was already appropriated in the budget this year. The Spencer Partnership focuses on event planning, operational management, and fundraising. And so we also provide general liability insurance coverage for the event, subject to policy limitations, with insurance coverage required for all the various vendors involved. So we recommend this for your consideration.
Does anyone have any questions to say or comments for Peter? Okay, I'm going to call for a motion for this.
Make a motion to authorize the town manager to execute the special event agreement with the Spencer Partnership.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Mr. Muhammad made the motion. Mr. Morgan seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to number 9. Consider authorizing the town manager to execute an interlocal contract for cooperative purchasing. I want to have you update the board again on this.
Certainly. Well, thank you again, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the board. We did talk about this last week. You now should have before you the item that was missing from the packet in the interlocal contract for cooperative purchasing. And again, our apologies for that error of it not appearing in the packet. But this agreement would allow the town to join the Houston-Galveston Area Council Cooperative Purchasing Program. It's known as HDAC BUY. It's a nationwide government procurement service that helps make the process more efficient for local government units. Participating members are able to take advantage of public bidding processes that have already been conducted by this group out of Houston, Texas area, and it's compliant with local statutes, and so the HGAC has in addition to agreements with the member participants, they have contracts with vendors that have again gone through competitive bidding processes. There's no cost for us to join, and it gives us the buying power associated with this. And so our recommendation is to authorize the town manager to execute an interlocal contract for cooperative purchasing with the Houston-Galveston Area Council. One other part about this that I want to share with you, and I have a stack of paper. If I can get my hands on it, I'm going to pass around this way.
Okay.
One for the we had asked, you had asked about some specifics related to the purchase of the fire truck. We have received the proposal there in front of you that would be an example of the type of contract that then we would enter into with a vendor as part of this program. And so this was actually sent since the last meeting, because you'll notice on the first page it has a price of the truck. On the next page I'll explain how that's broken down, and then it has a list of dealer supplied equipment, $67,000 and such. That was what Chief Lanning was referring to, hoses, nozzles, that sort of thing that could be purchased through this instead of separately after the fact. And so the second page is the list of that equipment, the dealer supplied equipment, and then the page behind that it says HGAC BUY contract pricing worksheet. So this shows you how the vendor arrives at the price they're providing us going through the cooperative purchasing program. Essentially, there was a base unit price of the truck as specified, $616,000. Another nearly $197,000 worth of published options. These are options that were submitted and priced in the contractor's bid to HGAC. And then there's another item, C, unpublished items, unpublished options. That's worth another $11,500. And so the way this works is that's where some of the customization can happen beyond the base bid that went in through the co-op. That amount cannot exceed 25% of the total of the base price, because at that point then you're not really piggybacking anymore. But so that shows that, as specified here, it's about at less than 2% difference from the base bid, so it meets all the requirements. And then that gets you to the back to the price that was listed of $824,000 and change, and then the $67,000 is also listed for the equipment. So that brings us to a grand total just shy of $900,000 basically for the new fire truck that we would like to receive within the next few years. Again, you heard Chief Lanning describe the conversation on lead times. The other angle on all this, and we're not prepared for you tonight to take action on this specific purchase, but the price we see is locked in only until October 31st. Then there's going to be another 6.5% increase to the pricing that comes from the manufacturer, from Pierce. And so at this point, again, we recommend authorizing us to enter into the co-op. There may be an opportunity for us to get enough details ironed out that we may like you to have a special meeting before the end of the month to consider the next step. But if not, it would come in the coming months, and it would reflect a little bit of an increase. But what we want to accomplish before we get to that part is to, and I've asked our staff to start getting some of the details to see if we can get an idea on what the financing looks like. For example, the USDA Rural Development Program has the same loan process that we use to finance this construction project. Small towns are eligible to use them for things like buying a fire truck. They also have grants available, not just loans, but also grants. So we're wanting to look into those details and see what we can bring back before you for your consideration and what the best options would be. But just to kind of let you know where we're headed with this.
Okay, any questions or comments?
And this, even it was my understanding that even that as a part of this buying consortium, we're still working with the local vendors that we normally would be working with.
That's correct. So for example, this quote is from a company called Atlantic Emergency Solutions. They're based out of Virginia, but they have local presences, and that's who you go to get a Pierce fire truck, basically. So, yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Do I hear a motion that we allow our town manager to execute an interlocal contract?
So moved. Second.
Okay, so moved by Mr. Morgan, seconded by Mr. Miller. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, it carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
When would we talk about a meeting to discuss whether we go ahead and approve this now and beat that 6.5% increase?
Well, if you want to look at the calendar, and we could circle in the target date, and then we could know whether or not we're able to pull it off between now and then.
I mean, I think that's probably about $50,000 worth of difference, if my calculation is close.
Let's see. I've got a number actually, that because I had asked the representative from Atlantic about this. Is there anything we can do to extend? Can we have till November 15th? Is what I asked, and he said, "I wish so, but unfortunately, it comes from Pierce, and there's nothing they can do about it in terms of the pricing." I am looking for that exact number. Yep. So the percentage, $48,000 is what he mentioned. So.
Wasn't the mayor saying something about he's going to be out of town sometime at the end of the month?
Do you know the mayor's schedule?
Not off the top of my head, but I know
He
he's.
said something about the end of the month he's not there around.
And if it may work better to, we can follow up with y'all later this week to see if we can. But if there,
Let's make sure he's here. That's the main thing.
He needs to be present.
are there any if there's any particular dates towards the end of the month, I imagine,
Will we all be at the groundbreaking?
well, we would probably want to accomplish this prior to that if we could, if things line up. But so that gives us about 2 weeks. I would imagine it would need to be that week of 24th. But we'll follow up with you on.
He said he's going to be in Chapel Hill the 27th and 28th.
Well, that was me.
Oh,
Yes.
that's you. I'm sorry.
That's me, but
I'm sorry. I'm misreading.
well, we'll follow up with you on the dates.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're now moving into departmental reports. Each department head will be presenting their monthly report. We're going to start with planning. Mr. Blunt. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Pro Tem, members of the board, you have my written report on the activities for the month, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
I wonder about those deep thoughts that you would decide to ignore.
I saw that too.
I mean, is that really important?
Through quickly through my mind. I can't even tell you what they were.
All right, and then what is EB 5861?
That's the 3rd Street Greenway.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that is the North Carolina Department of Transportation identifier number for that project. Other than that, thank you.
Okay, thank you. You set a record. Okay, we'll move to code enforcement. Mr. Osborne.
Good morning, Mayor Pro Tem and fellow board members. I want to slightly go over my highlights here for the month. I did have a record number of cases for the month of 92, which is quite a bit. A third of those were approximately parking on grass that were assisted by the police department finding things in the evening that I investigated. Of those parking in the grass, 4 of them are opened at the time of this report. I have issued 2 citations for those who continue to park in their front yard at this time. Those who were closed for various reasons, whether it didn't meet the letter of the code from a police officer's point of view, not exactly knowing everything about the code. With the parking in the grass, I was able to eliminate many of those, either through compliance or through its adherence to the code itself. At the time I did this, I had 52 open cases that were included in my report. Since then, I've been able to close 21 of those at the time of this report. So now I'm left open with 31 from those that are in your report. Short of that, any other questions? I just wanted to review a little bit of the highlights within my reports for this past month.
Mr. Osborne, this parking on the grass, the police department's helping you give out citations. Is there a fee for this? Are they paying the fees, or?
The police are helping me identifying properties that have habitual parking in the grass in the evenings when I can't see them. Now, there is a fee with those. It's $50 maximum for parking in the grass, and at this point, I've not received any payment.
I just wonder, is there any way we can enforce that? If we're gonna enforce the rule, how are we gonna enforce the fee as far as that goes?
I had a conversation earlier this afternoon with Mr. Blunt about that, and the enforcement side of that would require some amount. I'm not sure what that is amount to go after. I'm not sure 100% what that number would be, but that's something we could discuss.
To just jump in, for example, the fees are cumulative. So if somebody parks and receives a fine, $50 every day they do it, they get $50. And so at some point, $50 unpaid every day, if it goes on in that direction, adds up, and then at some point you get to an amount that you would pursue going to small claims court, for example, to collect an unpaid fine. But you know, if it's
$50 each day after that, that's kind of
For
high.
each instance. If we
For each incident. Okay, I'm sorry.
And also, I appreciate you clarifying that, Peter. But also, I'd like to bring up that's a fee against the owner of the vehicle and not a property owner. So
Right. I understand
it
that.
could be a different vehicle being parked there in the same location.
Okay.
So,
Wouldn't take long to buy a load of gravel.
I hear more about this ordinance than any. They don't understand why we have it in existence. And, you know, I've tried to explain, and but they're just a lot of rumbling about it. They don't, I think their attitude is they just don't understand the big deal if they park their car beside their home. And you know, parking is a big issue in Spencer on some of the streets, and I think we need to take that into consideration too. But maybe we can look at this again someday. I don't know. I understand why we have the ordinance, and I think it's a good, but I think there's a lot of disgruntlement out there about it, so, especially on the older side of town where people don't have access to driveways and things.
But they can park on the street. So,
Yeah, but the thing is, we have so many multi-generational homes now, and there may be 3 or 4 cars, and, you know, eventually you run out of street room too, if you're on one of the narrow streets.
yeah, and I know that creates a problem with the fire department as well, as far as
Yeah.
So but you know, the thing about it is, I know what you're saying, but it is a rule or a law, and I do think we need to enforce it. Period. It might not be satisfactory for everybody, and I'm sorry, but it's what we said, so let's enforce it. One other thing, Mr. Osborne, Mr. W. was complaint. Will you check on that as far as that the complaint he had this evening
About the light,
about the lights
the burning.
on was it 117 South Yankton Avenue? Check on that and see what the problem is. Will you please?
I will.
All right, thank you.
Hey, any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Osborne. Okay, we'll now move on to the police, Mr. File. Officer File, rather. Chief File. Right. Yeah,
I'm
sorry.
getting right.
Sorry.
All sorts of
Getting a promotion just like that.
Good evening. I hope each of you are doing well this evening. You received our monthly report as a standard. Call volume is running about on average about 1,200 events this month. I want to point out one thing on here. You know, it was brought up that we were going to start checking the Davidson County side, at least for now, until we either enter into an agreement or we do not. We'll start checking Davidson County side of the river part. That is not reflected on here yet. That was not built at the time this report was ran. So all that was kind of lumped underneath our normal park check. So on the report you receive next month, there will actually be an individual check line that will show when we're actually checking Davidson County side versus when we're checking the Rowan County side. So that will be broke down just so we have a little bit of stats if that is something that we decide to enter into any sort of agreement with Davidson County as far as keeping check on their property. Aside from that, our staffing level continues to move in the right direction. Our BLET candidate is doing well. I just spoke with him. He passed last 5 of his tests, which is a positive thing. So he's continuing to work towards his graduation on that. Officer Iodi is continuing in her field training program, which she is still slated sometime. You know, our general target time was towards the end of October. It may be somewhere either late October, early November. She'll be ready to come out and move into a vehicle on her own. So that is going to be at an ideal time before the holiday season hits. We have identified a candidate for our open sergeant's position, so we'll be moving on that hopefully later this week to continue the hiring process with that individual, hopefully to have them in place within about the next month also. So we are continuing to work on our staffing levels. We have some interest on our remaining open positions, and then hopefully bring in a few more part-time individuals on. That way we'll go back to being fully self-contained with our own agency and not have to sub out our work as we have about the previous 8 or 9 months. Aside from that, do you have any questions I could answer?
We have an agreement with the county till what, when? End of the year, or do
I
we?
believe it runs out in December.
Yes.
I believe it runs out sometime in December. We're going to be very, very tight on if that's going to be satisfactory. I hate to say that it was been good to keep a safety net, but we are still using them on occasion. I think this month we had to use about 4 shifts. There were 4 reduced shifts instead of working 12-hour shifts. I believe we had them scheduled for 8 hours when our guys were able to get in and cover it. I think twice they have left at the 6-hour point, but it was points where we really didn't have coverage if we didn't utilize them. That may be something to continue, obviously, with the new sheriff coming in later this year. That would be something to discuss if they're going to be willing to continue that. It probably would be good to continue that for at least one more quarter until, keeping in mind that our BLET graduate does not graduate and take a state test until, he actually graduates in December but takes the state test in January, and then he would begin his field training process at that point. So we are still going to remain short-staffed for the time being. Once he comes out, and actually comes out of field training, we're going to be at a pretty comfortable level at that point where we'll be maintaining our own. Still leave us with a few openings, but we'll be back maintaining our own where we have a little depth. So that's something we may want to consider before that ends.
You think the change at the sheriff's level will have any impact on available staff people?
Anytime I've lived through one sheriff's race in another county before where it's been a changeover, a lot of times there's gonna be a lot of changes in law enforcement all around, just simply because there'll be people that leave the sheriff's office and go to city agencies. There's gonna be people that go from city agencies to the sheriff's office. Anybody that was in Spencer a number of years ago can remember, we had a big changeover here. Our number 1 and 2 went to the sheriff's office when he was elected sheriff, and they kind of swapped spots. So then what was our chief became the chief deputy. So that was a number of years ago. But anytime a new sheriff comes in, there's definitely a lot of changes. I don't necessarily think it's going to hurt us locally here. They pop up some availability for some individuals that are looking for jobs. That's obviously good for us if it does. But overall, I think the county's going to remain pretty stable. And I will mention while I've got on the light trespass that was mentioned that you mentioned to Mr. Osborne, we don't have an ordinance that specifically deals with light trespass. It is something we could look at in the future. It would require a very detailed ordinance. There are a few cities that are utilizing that. I'll tell you on that situation, our guys have been called out there. Everybody's putting these LED light bulbs in on their lamp posts and whatnot. They are a lot brighter than the incandescent bulb. I don't think it's not an intentional thing where there's a spotlight pointed at a window. It's just a bright light bulb. So we don't really there's not a state law that necessarily deals directly with that. Some towns have enacted ordinances that require the use of a light meter, and you'd have to go to the individual's house to register and see if the light being emitted above the allowable level. And then there again, we could force them based upon some sort of ordinance. So that would be something we maybe discuss and present if the board so desires us to look into that.
Is there any interest at this point from the Board of Aldermen to get into that business?
Nope.
So it's not a direct.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a bright light bulb. I mean, it's not. There's not anything occurring attention like a big spotlight be pointed right at a window. It's just an excessively bright light. So I mean, as many people even know, you can replace a 75-watt incandescent bulb with a LED bulb that may only be 10 watts, but it puts out a lot more light. So I believe that's all. That's all it is. I don't think it's intentional, but
Okay.
just neighbor problems.
Do we have an ordinance about burning?
A lot of that will fall underneath the fire department. Obviously, it sounds like there may actually be an issue on that. That probably would be a valid complaint if somebody's burning any sort of item that's not designed to be burned like that. And there's a number of ordinances that we do have as far as burning within a certain distance of your residence or burning something that's not a standard combustible material. So, yeah, if that comes up and we receive a call on that, we'll act accordingly, depending on what's being burned. If they were burning wire or something, I believe there was an issue with that. That in fact was it. There would be an issue with it.
Okay, one thing I would like to say, I've been to several of the football games, and I've watched your police officers interacting with the fans there, the students and the adults, And I've been very impressed because they've really kept order. It's been very safe, and I can see the students respect them, and they talk very nicely to the students and get their attention quickly when they start wanting to do the things they're not supposed to be doing.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate the kind words. I gotta give the thanks to my guys though. So they're doing a good job, and
They're
obviously
doing a very
putting,
professional job.
we're putting a lot of time and effort into the schools with the recent events. So we're trying to dedicate an extra staff over there. I actually took myself and Detective Honeycutt over there yesterday to help them deal with the issue over at the school. So we're kind of giving them all the service that we can right now. Even though we're limited staff, so I will tell you that there are a lot more officers at the games than what you see too. So there's a lot of times there's double digit of officers in that stadium. You may not see them, but they are definitely there. So, rest assured of that.
Matt, can I say something? And it's associated with the police department and the football games. I learned something from Joel the other day. I understand y'all requested light standards up at certain football games in the parking area. I don't really realize that most people don't know that, but there are some dark areas around the stadium out on Whitehead Avenue. And I understand from Joel that the Transportation Museum has donated those lights for our use or for the town's use. I think you requested, or the police department requested it, to brighten up the area so it wouldn't be any dark areas. And I appreciate that's good ideas, and I appreciate the Transportation Museum for donating those lights.
Definitely, yeah, we definitely appreciate it. It keeps us from having to rent them. Obviously, that would be a budgetary issue, so they've offered them to us, and we utilize them. Anytime we have a game that we anticipate there's going to be excessive cars in the parking lot, normally everybody parks close. But if we think there's going to be cars parked in the lower parking lot, like I believe on the 28th, October 28th will be our next big game. We anticipate a pretty big crowd on that one, so we'll have the light tower set up on that to light up that kind of dark area that's down there where we'll have a little spillover traffic parking. So.
Well, I think it's a good idea. It's a good idea for your department. And I thank Joel and his area for taking care of hauling back and forth.
Definitely.
Hey, any other comments?
Thank you very much.
Chief.
Take care.
Okay, and now we'll hear from the fire department. I don't believe Miss Chief Lanning's here, but we're glad you're here.
We have Deputy Chief Doug Lewis.
Hope y'all are well since we saw each other last. Calls for service for the month of September, we'll hit that. 57 fire, 54 EMS for a total of 111, sitting at 694 for the year so far. I know you shake your head, and I'm with you.
On the way to a wreck.
I can't believe it either. It's been incredible. The town managers touched on the truck and did a great job touching on that. The only other thing that I could possibly add is the equipment cost in the higher bid. That would lock in at today's prices. None of us know where it's going, Sam. We did receive, or we were notified on September 29th that we received the State Fire Marshal's grant for $35,000 so we can purchase some new equipment, replace some old stuff. Special events. I'm sure everybody saw Thomas or heard Thomas. Through this weekend, for the total for Thomas, met with and discussed fire safety with over 900. What we have at the current count. Fire Prevention Week.
While we're on pardon me for interrupting. I'm sure Chief Lanning has gone over this with his personnel, and probably you have too. But anytime that you're over at the Transportation Museum and there are a bunch of kids in and around the cab, make sure somebody has eyes on them. I remember the first year we had our E1, and this is years ago. We took our E1 over to a special event over there, and when we came back, one of the guys that was supposed to have been monitoring the cab had allowed a bunch of kids to get in there, and there were button covers and everything that was missing that amounted to quite a lot of money.
We ran into the same problem. We have about 60 pictures of kids on the tablet.
Fingers.
We have those pictures. The first weekend we got self-assigned to a call out in Rockville Rural. One of the kids touched the tablet. So we've had that issue. Still the same thing. So, and it has been busy. We do have the open house this weekend for Fire Prevention Week, Saturday, 11 to 2. I don't know if you've all seen the flyer. I don't have one on me. The other thing we've been doing for the last month is the members working every Wednesday have gone to North Rowan Elementary School, and we've had lunch with all grades. The other thing that we've done this week, Monday, today, and tomorrow, is we will touch every classroom with fire prevention and fire safety. So we've covered every class. We've interviewed 2 potential candidates and extended offers to those 2. Not sure when we're going to start. I don't have that information yet. August 26th, FEMA started with the awards for Safer Grant. We still don't know. We're hoping. And we are still working with TJ DeLuca with the league on the risk review program. Fairly tedious process, but we're making strides.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good
Good
job.
job.
Were you at the schools this morning?
I was there yesterday. This morning, I was there this afternoon for the 5th grade.
Okay, so is that why the trucks came up Charles Street?
It is. We've
Okay.
been over there ourselves, Ellis and East Spencer, since the surrounding departments, and we've got kids from the surrounding communities that are there. They can just see everybody that they would probably see should they need it.
Good.
Wonderful.
And it's been a blast. They've enjoyed it. So have we.
Good. Well, I was afraid something happened out on Main Street again, and y'all had to come down and go back up that way to get something.
No, we've been good.
Okay.
We've just all gone on all the calls together
Okay.
since we're there. So
All right.
it's been good for all of us.
Good job.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Public Works, Mr. Taylor.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem,
Good
members of the
evening.
board. Everybody doing well this evening? Very good. You have my report in front of you. Just wanted to do a few updates. The brush truck, we are caught up now. We're running day. We're on the actual day we're supposed to be. So last week was a little bit of a bear after the storm, but we are caught up. And the leaf back was supposed to start the first week, but is running this week. We had to kind of slide that just a little bit because of the storm. Speaking of the storm, we were fairly fortunate. We didn't have all that much. We had a few little things, a lot of limbs, debris in the road, but one big tree across Jordan Avenue, which is mostly still there, on top of a gentleman's truck. So, but we did get it out of the road, and it's safe at this point. We did move the mulch giveaway because of that. So it will be this Saturday from 7 until 12 o'clock. So if anybody would like some, or they can call ahead and reserve loads to be delivered. We're fulfilling the ones that we had previously. We had several that had signed up, so we're getting those, and then we'll add whatever we have that morning or leading up to. We are working, and Sky's working harder than anybody, but we are working on getting the trunk or treat put together for the 31st. So we'll constantly be doing that, more so even the rest of us. They'll just kind of tell us what we need to do. So, but it will be here in front of Town Hall on the 31st. Time was 5:30 till 7:30. And the fire department, police department, everybody will be here, plus our volunteers. And we will have an event for the kids. Chief Fowle spoke about his employment going up. Mine's going down. We had our last hiree resigned, so we are back down to 7. So I have 3 positions that are available. If you know anybody that's wanting to work with the town, let us know. We will entertain it and get it through and do some interviews. But we are reaching out to about everybody we know to get those positions filled.
You have 3?
3. Mechanic, sanitation worker, and then well, actually, the brush truck operator would be a sanitation worker also, but in a different form. Those are the 3 that we have available. And other than that, the CCAP, we're still working with, I talked to Cindy the other day. We're still trying to get the numbers together on exactly how many plants and that kind of stuff. She's been traveling back and forth, so we will have that number soon, and I'll bring that back to you to see if it's feasible to do the planning. Kind of been a issue. And also, we are moving forward with the painting of the library. We are.
Has the contract been awarded on that, or what?
An update would probably be good, Joel.
An update?
Yeah.
Okay, so we had some issues getting some supplies that a particular painter wanted. And I'm not calling anybody out on this. And for him to warranty what he was going to do. We reached out to another painter and had him come in and price it. And he feels confident that he's got the supplies that he can move forward and go on. So I don't know. I don't know that we were ever really in contract with the other painter. We were kind of hanging to make sure that he could get the supplies that he wanted.
We did have we had a purchase order set up with a vendor. That vendor has ultimately not been able to perform, and so that's caused us to look for alternatives and identify a different vendor who can help us with the project, basically.
Right. So we just and talking to John, with the money that was secured, we can transfer that. So that money was from last year's budget. So we can just basically switch people on the PO and get that taken care of, and that money's still available to be used.
One other side of this, Joel, if you could speak a little bit about the windows themselves. We had talked, I believe previously, you've heard us talk about a window replacement project in the sense that there's currently windows that are wood frames, and the idea that we could replace them with something that would be vinyl, for example, and not have to deal with the maintenance on an ongoing basis. One of the other pieces of information that we got as part of this quote is a quote about window painting, because we had the opportunity to go inside and see the windows up close upstairs. It appears like they are in fairly good condition, and there may be an opportunity to preserve the windows, repaint them, and then this is where I'm hoping you can jump in. Put essentially a storm window on the exterior that helps keep the maintenance issues down.
Speaking with the new contractor, and I know from experience what we did at our church, the windows in the library now have an interior storm window, not an exterior storm window. So it has an interior, which basically helps with the heat and the cooling because of the age of the building. I mean, it's pretty common. What we're looking at is doing a painting, keep the historic windows, fix and glazing the whole 9 yards, fix them, and then put an exterior storm window on, like a lot of churches are doing now with their stained glass windows, because of the sun deterioration on the windows. Same process, just putting an exterior. So I'm in the process now of trying to get prices. Storm window people don't want to call you back, but trying to get prices to see what the painting process plus the storm windows would cost together. But that's not going to stop us from getting the rest of the painting going.
We did have, I believe, $50,000 in the budget this fiscal year, and that was funding created by the supplanted ARPA funds that was going to go towards this window replacement project. And so the hopes are that the painting plus the storms would be less than or equal to the
would fall
replacement.
into that.
Plus
the leftovers from the painting, the original painting. That came in the list.
I have a question.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
I hate to open this up, but
Okay.
If you don't, I will.
If you
Okay.
don't-
Historically, what kind of problems we gonna run with putting these windows on the outside compared to the inside? I mean, have you gone through
according-
with them and talked to them about
Well, and that was a lot of the process of replacement.
Yeah.
Was going through the whole HPC process as
Right.
far as replacing windows. Was one of the deciding factors was staying with the older windows, plus the condition of the older windows
Right.
were still okay. According to Kyle, which isn't here.
He's not here to defend himself.
According to Kyle, we had that conversation, and he said exterior storm windows are allowed.
Okay.
Now
Just want to make sure.
we'll have to get into the details a little bit later on
Yeah.
what kind, that kind of deal. But he said they are allowed to preserve the wooden window.
It sounded like that review process would likely be much smoother than the review process for replacement, basically because one of the decision points on replacing wood to vinyl is are the wood windows still in good condition and could they be maintained? And now we've determined that they are, and so that would probably cause an issue with trying to meet the standards for the historic approval for vinyl.
So once you close, put vinyl on the outside, I guess basically you're gonna either heat it or air condition. Open any windows or anything like
Correct.
that.
Well, they're not
They don't
able
have
to.
that.
But I know
Yeah,
eventually.
they're not able to be opened at this
There's
point
already
anyway
the
because of
interior
the solid
storms.
storm windows
Yeah,
on the inside.
okay, I just figured.
Yeah, so that's not really changing any issue, and I would recommend keeping both
Okay,
inside and
that's fine.
exterior.
Okay.
I mean, not changing anything. So, there you go. Any other questions?
I've got one question
Yes, ma'am.
about that trunk or treat.
Yes, ma'am.
Do people register it, like if there's a church that wants to?
We're gonna
participate in
Sky's
that?
gonna speak in a little bit, and
Oh,
she'll
okay.
address all trunk or treat questions at that
Okay,
time.
thank you very much.
I just wanted to thank her for taking it on
Oh,
and
yeah.
getting it organized because
Amen.
it's a big undertaking.
Yes, it is, and I'm glad we're doing it again.
I agree. So I will let her address this question.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Very good. Good evening.
Do we have a finance report tonight?
You have it before you. It should look like this.
Right.
And,
Okay.
and so and we realized thank you to Alderwoman Sledge. She always makes sure we are doing what we're supposed to. She pointed out that it was missing from the packet, which was an error, and we've got it before you today. So the one thing I'll point out is we're a quarter through the year for this report. Generally, our expenditures are proceeding at that rate, about 25%, based, depending on the unit. Our revenues are lagging behind some, but revenues tend to do that this time of the year because the property taxes are not due and it's effectively until January, and after that they become late. So hope those will continue to come in. The sales taxes also lag behind some, but we don't foresee any issues right now finance wise.
We got some additional funding for Powell Bill. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's a good question, and I think at some point there will likely be a budget amendment to come before you to address that. But we found out, I believe, and I don't have the numbers in my head, but I think we planned on somewhere around $100,000 or $105,000 of Powell Bill revenue coming from the state. And when they notified us of the disbursement, it was another $45,000 on top of that, I think, which was great news. That will allow us to broaden the scope of our resurfacing project this year. And not to go down a whole other conversation, we had talked previously about hoping to do a fall resurfacing. It's going to be a spring resurfacing, basically just due to the response from the contractors and getting folks lined up. the time of year doesn't really work out too well to get them lined up for a fall resurfacing, but we have time now to get things ready to go so that we can go ahead and we could start with the engineering side of that and be ready to go out to bid on the resurfacing contract for the spring.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, and finally, the library report, it is included in your packet. I don't know if anyone was able to get to the program today, but they did have one with communities and schools, and I want to emphasize the Winter Wishes program where you can drop off gloves and hats, mittens during the month of October for students. So if you have any that you would like to purchase and drop those off or gently use, that would be wonderful. And I want to commend Miss McGraw for having such an outstanding outreach program. She seems like she has something going on there all the time. So I think that's wonderful. Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, we will now go to agenda item 11, Town Manager Report, and Mr. Franzese will present his monthly report.
Thank you once again, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the board. And I've talked a lot, so I'll keep it brief. One thing I wanted to get some feedback from you is our November meeting. Hopefully you'll recall that November 8th turns out to be election day, and so that is the second Tuesday of the month, and so we will actually not be able to have the regular second Tuesday meeting that day due to this being a polling place for the general election. And so talked with Mayor Williams, and our recommendation is to conduct all the business at the pre-agenda on the 3rd, and what we could do is send a notice out of the schedule change effectively. The 3rd is already a scheduled meeting, so we don't need to call a special meeting or anything like that. But that seemed to be the indication based on the feedback from the board so far as how we should handle this for November. The only direction I'm seeking is whether you'd prefer to keep the 5:30 time for the 3rd, or whether you'd rather that meeting start at 6. And as we're doing the schedule,
Keep the 5:30 because I imagine it's going to run very, not very long, but probably longer than normal because we don't have a 5:30 time.
5:30. Yeah, we're all used to that. But I think that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And just one other reminder is Monday we do have Monday the 17th. We have the groundbreaking scheduled at 2 p.m. for the Akron River Trailhead. We're excited about that, and Joe Morris is working hard lining up shovels. I told him we need between 15 and 20 shovels. So, and Pat Sledge offered 3. So
Yeah, I've got some shovels.
I'm hoping we can find some gold shovels and a green
gold
ribbon. I don't know whether Joe will be able to come.
You got any
Well, Joe,
gold
do
ones?
you have any gold shovels
I
with
got
the green
some
ribbon?
gold spray paint. We can paint my old shovel and use that.
But that's we're looking forward to that. That's certainly a key milestone in that project, and looking forward to kicking that off. If there's no other questions, what I'd like to do is actually invite Sky up. She's got a few updates she'd like to provide to you.
Okay, wonderful.
Is that 1 o'clock?
2 p.m.
2 p.m.
Yep.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you're all doing well.
Very good.
So my report comes in 2 parts, so that'll be the second part. The first part is an update on the Mural project. I've mostly applied for all of the previous grants I've brought before you before. And in that time, I've also started digging through all of the funders of a lot of the North Carolina Arts Museum and dug up a list of what could potentially apply to this program. I've been able to divide them into 2 categories, one of which has a public-facing presence, and that was about 10 or so grants, and about 155 not public-facing grants. These are mostly private family foundations who do not keep a public-facing website, but nonetheless have a mailing address. And over the next month, I intend to send them letters of inquiry, which they are free to ignore as is their prerogative, or if they find our project interesting, to reach back out. So that will be the next step in my grant seeking. But current grant seeking has already started to bear fruit. Just this afternoon, I received word from the Rowan County Grassroots Grant that we have received $5,000 for this project. So this project funding now stands at $10,000 and hopefully counting.
Wonderful.
Okay, and the next one is one we're all most interested in, which is the Trunk or Treat program. So this is the flyer I have put together. The event is scheduled to happen on October 31st between 5:30 and 7:30. If you go to the next slide. So, a bit hard to see, but I printed out, this is the park. So we plan to utilize the left side of the parking lot for trunk parking. We will delineate the area with cones. The entrance on to Salisbury Avenue will be blocked off by a fire truck. This will also give the fire truck a way to get out if it needs to go to an emergency. Trunks will be asked to begin arriving at 4 o'clock. No new trunks will be allowed entrance after 5:20, so that all trunks are in place by the time the event begins at 5:30. This preparations will functionally start on the previous Friday, when all cars that are parked in the parking lots are at in the late afternoon. I'm going to place a flyer on their windscreen asking that if you regularly park here, please park to the right side of the parking lot, along with a flyer for the event and my information in case they have any additional questions. Over the next few days, I will also be approaching the downtown business owners with an informational flyer and an events flyer, informing them of what will be going on, how they'll be affected, and what they can expect to happen, and also an invitation to Joel, the Public Works, Fire, and Police have been very kind to with their assistance. Joel will be helping with cones and trash cans. Fire will be helping with volunteers and various other needs to be put forward. And Police will be providing event security, as we've discussed. I am currently waiting on our web administrator to put an addition on the website, which will allow people to sign up to be a trunk. This is mostly a formality as to give us like a relative head count of how many trunks we can anticipate. If they don't sign up, we're not going to turn them away, but we just want to sort of estimate how far over the cones we'll need to go. But once the form is up on the website, these flyers will begin to be distributed, as well as promotional materials along our social media sites. The event should finish up at 7:30. We anticipate at least an hour, or not an hour, half an hour of cleanup and getting the parking lot back to its original state. I have also begun reaching out to different community organizations for volunteers, and over the next couple days, as well as soon as the form is up and running on the website, I'll begin reaching out to multiple neighborhood churches, as well as the Kyle Ripken League, Spencer Women's Club, ROTC, and the Spencer Masons to promote the event and about any volunteers they may be willing to provide for the event. Are there any questions?
Oh, you did
Yeah.
right. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's it. Well, she has done a great job. I've got a 50-gallon barrel I'd like to donate for any unused candy, like Hershey bars, Three Musketeers, M&Ms. If if they want to pile it in there, I'll be glad to get rid of it for them. So
Sure, we can find a use for a 50-gallon drum.
just thinking ahead. Great work. Thanks for pulling
Very
this
well
together.
organized.
Oh, and something I did neglect to mention, we are going to have a People's Choice trunk decoration contest.
Okay.
Because, well, people will come and go all evening, the cars will stay in place. And we'd like,
Good.
and Mr. Lanning has agreed to put together a few small prizes for that.
any thought about a banner or anything that we could display on Main Street? We
So
are-
in previous years, the 8th
Okay.
Street ballpark, they've had a couple banners, and we are seeing about repurposing them for this event.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to advertise. 'Cause
Yeah.
a lot of people don't do Facebook, so not a good response.
Do we have any idea what kind of numbers of kids to expect?
The last one I went to was about 300 or 400 kids.
I mean, if your trunk runs out of candy, are you in trouble? Well,
Right.
last year, not year before last, Family Dollar ran out of candy.
Right.
Well, to hopefully allay some questions, I've also put together a sort of information sheet for people who sign up to be trunks, which will hopefully cut down on some of the confusion about this is where you go, this is when you arrive, this is how long you stay here, this is when you leave, and that included like an estimate of, I wrote in 300 to 400 children.
Hardly
One
that many.
one other Halloween related announcement I'd like to make. Not that I'm going to be here in a banana suit or anything.
Oh, really?
I-
That'd be go good.
there, hopefully some of y'all are aware of this, but the Community Appearance Commission is conducting a decorating contest right now
Right.
for homes, and so there's a website. There's a page on our website. If you go to spencer.nc.gov/Halloween, you can find information about the contest. That's where the information about Trunk or Treat is going to be added. But just the nominations for the Halloween decorating contest for the community are due the 19th of October. 19th of October, there's a online nomination form or a download that can be sent in. There's also, I believe, some information about it out front here. Winners will be announced on October 26th, so you'll be able to trick or treat with your bragging rights already.
Outstanding job, Sky.
Okay. That concludes our departmental reports. We are now at the section where the board members are asked if they wish to make a comment. So I'll start with Mr. Miller.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I'd like to put a shout out to the appearance community. This past Sunday, they had a fundraiser there at the community garden. They raised $2,126, which is outstanding for what we did. But it's a lot of hard work. All the committee members did a great job. We had a few leftover pumpkins. I noticed some of them were gone this morning, which is good. And there were some leftover baking items like cookies and things like that. And I know Amy donated to the town for the staff, and I appreciate her doing that. So between that and, like I said, the decorations of the homes, I'd like to say the appearance committee is doing an outstandingly good job. I appreciate their support.
I agree 110%. It's a beautiful garden.
Yes, it is.
It's wonderful.
And eventually, the goal is to put a gazebo there, and we can't build it yet. We still don't have enough money, but we're working towards that. We're getting there, so we'll be there shortly.
Okay, Alderman Sledge.
I wanted to also talk about the staff participation for the fun run and the 5K. I signed up at the last minute and I walked the 5K. I didn't run it because I don't have good ankles. But I want to thank the police officer who followed along behind me and didn't run me over all the way to the river. It was a good event. It was fun. It's not something I'd ever done before. and I had people ask me along the way if I needed a ride. So. But I also wanted to commend the Community Appearance Committee for their community garden. One of the things that I've made a commitment to is to start an orchard there. So I'm in the process of getting information about the kinds of apple trees and plum trees and blueberries to be planted in the community garden. So I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, Mr. Morgan.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Muhammad.
Well, I just wanted to reiterate what an outstanding job that the mayor, the board, the department heads, and all the staff are doing in the town, trying to make improvements. And I wanted to also say that the movie nights, they were a success. Heard that the kids really enjoyed them. You know, also to just getting the town staff and the residents involved at the 8th Street Ballpark. They having a fall baseball season going on right now. So like every Tuesday and Friday evening, I think Tuesdays at 7 and Fridays at 6 p.m. they have games there. And they said they would like to see more participation from the residents. Some people come out and just, you know, purchase from the concession, but you know, just a nice family friendly, safe environment. Also too, thanks to all the residents that came out this evening, as well as the ones that spoke at public comment as well.
Okay, and I would like to say I'm amazed at all the activities and events that are going on in Spencer. Sometimes I just almost get overwhelmed with so much going on at one time, but it's wonderful. I can't remember ever seeing this much going on, and all of it is such top quality events too, and thanks to everybody that's made it possible. Some of you will probably be getting phone calls or emails or messages later about helping to volunteer for Winterfest or the parade, or if you're interested, you can get in touch with me or another board member and let us know what you would like to do. But Winterfest will be the first 2 weekends in December, and we've got all kinds of opportunities for volunteering. So we're hoping that a lot of the people who enjoyed it last year will come back, and maybe they will talk some of their friends into doing it also. You do not have to be a resident of Spencer or even Rowan County. We had people come in from out of Rowan County who used to live here to volunteer, and I'm sure some of them will be back. And I also want to give a shout out to the builders and the developers who are rehabbing and fixing some of these older homes in Spencer. I have never seen all of this happening at once. And I'm going to, if you haven't seen the house at 403 South Rowan Avenue, right on the other side of the library, the standback house, you need to ride by and look at it. It is just beautiful. It is for sale right now. But a lot of the homes that were considered to be eyesores are now just wonderful, inviting places. And you can see some on every block. You can see new homes being built, and you can see the older homes being restored. So I think our planning department gets a lot of credit for that, and I'm just really excited about that. So I'm looking forward to the things that we've got going on for the holiday season, as I know everybody else is. And I want to thank all of you for allowing me the opportunity to serve as Mayor Pro Tem tonight.
Miss Patty, we got one other comment real fast.
Yeah.
We have a training session set up for volunteers for the Christmas parade, and anybody wants to volunteer helping with the Christmas parade, and that's coming up the 20th of this month, and I'm not sure exactly what time it is.
5:30, I think.
Okay,
At
5:30
the building.
at the Wallace Building, uptown. The Wallace Lawyer Office.
Yeah.
So we do need
So-
volunteers for help. So it's a training session. I think they want people being trained as far as that goes. So if anybody would like to be involved in that, please show up, like I said, 20th. Thank you.
Any other comments? Is there a need to go into executive session this evening? Is there any other business that we need to come back for the board at this time? If there is not, I'm going to call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morgan. Thank you, Mr. Muhammad. All in favor? Thank you. The meeting is adjourned.